I think we made a little bit of a mistake over these last 2 weeks.
What's that?
I think we left the soup out to dry. It seems like it's getting a little bit cold.
Oh boy.
Jack Campbell, what's going on with this man? Over the first third of the season, he had an NHL best 10 wins, save percentage of .940, in keeping with Shesterkin, goals against average 1.63, the second most shutouts in the league. For a while, a lot of people were saying it was between him and Shesterkin for the Vezina. What's happened?
I don't know, and rightfully so. He was in that conversation.
Yep.
He was having a great year. Leafs fans felt confident in their goaltending. Well, with respect to Freddie Anderson, we never felt this confident about our goaltending in the past 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, if we take it back to last year too, when he took over the reins for Frederik Andersen, remember he had that like 10 or 11 historic game winning streak with a .930 plus save percentage. You know, everyone, including me, thought that wasn't a big enough sample size, and we were pretty anxious to see what Jack Campbell would have done at the start of this year. But then he comes out and does what he does, and Leaf fans are going, damn, we got a guy for the long term.
Yeah.
And since January 1st, it's been a mess.
Yeah. I've never, we've seen teams flip like this,
Yep.
like on their heads, especially as Leaf fans, but I haven't seen like a player do this or a goalie have such a different second half of the season. It's a little bit concerning. I do have confidence that he'll find his form.
Me too.
But let's just look at this. So since January 1st,
Yep.
their expected goals against in total has been 69.86.
Okay.
So that's their expected goals against, but their actual goals against is 95.
Wow.
So that's over 25 more goals than expected. That could be construed as defense
Yep.
or goalie or both, but either way, that's not a good sign.
Very, very concerning. So from that same time point, January 1st, Jack Campbell, as Stephen Brown alluded to last episode, has been 31st out of 32 goalies in the league with respect to save percentage or something like that. It's been sub-9 with goals against above 3.5. And by the way, his backup, Petr Mrazek, is not helping him at all.
Yeah.
He's like 20th in the league since that time as well, with a save percentage of like .850. It's just... It's a mess. Like, when we think about it, like, what do you think is the biggest problem for Jack Campbell in net right now?
Well, he said a couple of, maybe it was dating back to last week, he gave a press conference, said that it was mental.
Yep.
Right? So that's never something you want to hear. But I think the good thing is that it's fixable.
Mm-hmm.
You can get your confidence back, you can get your momentum back. I think it is a lot mental. A goalie is a very mental position. You have to be confident that you're going to save every puck. And when you don't, you become a sieve. That happens all the time.
Yep.
But now I want to ask you a question. He's just been put on the IR for a couple of weeks with a rib injury.
Jack Campbell?
Yeah, got put on just earlier today. We're recording on Thursday the 10th. Do you think this 2-week break now can do him some good?
That's actually a really good point. I think the answer to that question is yes. You know, Jack Campbell has been very adamant in interviews that he is very hard on himself with respect to games. He says that even games where he'd win like 3-1 and stop like 40 or 42 pucks, he would like lament over those 2 goals, and he would not critique himself constructively, but in a way that he admits was detrimental towards his mental health, especially in net. So he says he's been doing a better job, like looking at his gameplay from a more constructive point of view. He's apparently working with some coaches to do that, and hopefully you would hope that over this 2 weeks, without the need to like work out or to be on the ice, he takes priority to get that better. And what you never want to see a player get hurt, but if there was a 2-week hiatus that he needed, I think now's the time. Yeah,
for sure. And you made a great point about just mindset. Of course, you want to be hard on yourself to a degree and expect the best, but there's a tightrope you have to walk as an athlete or as anybody who wants to achieve goals, where if you're too hard on yourself, you can spiral and go down the hill really quickly.
Yep.
And hopefully this is a lesson for him and, I don't know, for everyone, that there's a fine line between being critical and being too hard on yourself.
For sure. And it's a bit of a double whammy, unfortunate situation for him right now. He not only plays the most vulnerable position with respect to media scrutiny, especially from my perspective as a player, you know, nobody likes to admit it, but when you have a bad game, it falls on the goalie's shoulders first, and unjustifiably so. But that's just the way it is. And not only that, he plays in arguably the biggest market in the league with the worst media. So having mental strength is something critical for a hockey player in Toronto and also for a goalie. And I have no doubt that he's going to figure it out. But when we move forward, the question is like, what do the Leafs do? You know, when he was on this 2-3 week period of decline, Leaf fans were saying, you know what, it's just a small blip, things will get better. But like, at what point do we start saying this is like no longer temporary? I don't know. I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
I just think that with the minimal cap space that we have and the other holes we have on our team, you got to bank on them figuring it out.
Yeah.
Because if just say you were to go and get a goalie, you'll have close to, depending on who you get, close to 10 million wrapped up in goalies. We just can't afford that as a team. We're even probably overpaying for Mrazek and Campbell combined right now based on their performance. So if we trade for a goalie and one of them doesn't go the other way, we're preventing ourselves from making other trades. So I don't know. I think you have to wait and hope it figures itself out. But what do you think?
Yeah, no. So I agree with you. I think there's two options that the Leafs can do. One, like you said, is to go out and get a goalie, and the second one is to continue what we're currently doing, but in a way that doesn't split starts. You said Jack Campbell was on the IR. I didn't know that, but thinking about when he comes back from the IR, if you're dead set on not getting another goalie, you know Peter Mrazek is not going to be the guy to do a deep playoff run. You need to let Jack Campbell get as many starts as he can to get his mojo back. Like that's just my opinion. This split starts is not going to work unless you have two great goalies. And if you're going to stick it out and not go get a goalie at the deadline, I just don't think splitting starts is going to work, especially when Campbell starts to play poorly. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the other side of that argument is the Leafs going into the playoffs the past few years have been riding one guy, and the goaltending performance in the playoffs hasn't been great because of fatigue or whatever you want to call it. So I do get that you want to give him a run of games to sort of get him back in a groove, but you risk maybe tiring him out or something. I think that, I don't know. It's a tough scenario. I don't think there's one perfect answer.
Yeah, it's really tough because when I think about it, if I imagine myself as a goalie who gets every non-back-to-back start that Jack Campbell was getting at the beginning of the year, now that you start splitting starts, in your mind you start going, oh, the organization doesn't have faith in me. And if he's already struggling from a mental standpoint, do you really want to instill more doubt into him? And I mean, if we are dead set on having these two goalies going into the playoffs, that's why I think you need to give him every start that you can, because you're putting your trust in him. You need to practice what you preach and show him that he's the guy that's going to be in the net.
That's a good point from a mental standpoint.
Yeah, I just when you think about who the Leafs could go get, I saw a great tweet on Twitter that said the goalies that are available, the differential for them compared to Jack Campbell is not very high, even when Jack Campbell is bad. And when Jack Campbell is good, he beats all of these goalies that are in the open market.
Yeah.
There's names like Marc-Andre Fleury, but we know now that that's not happening. He said he doesn't want to uproot his family.
Yeah.
Who else do we have? Ville Husso from St. Louis. He's a free agent next year. Right?
Yeah, I don't even know if St. Louis would be willing to trade him because he's been good for them.
Yeah, 100%. When I was looking for for Ville Husso, I know Edmonton inquired into him, and the asking price was a first-round pick and a high prospect, which would be Nick Robertson. I think the Leafs could use that to go get a top pairing defenseman. And like you said, the goalie is not the area that we need to fix most.
No, it's definitely not. I think we'll just have to hope that it figures itself out. I have confidence that it will. I mean, I've seen a few people say Jack Campbell didn't play in the AHL and grind his way to get to the NHL just to let this one thing stop him. I think you just gotta have faith that the team will work it out. Haven't had much faith in Leafs management and coaching staff in the past, but I do have confidence in this set of guys to do that. So
I think we have a large enough sample size on Jack Campbell being not only good but excellent that we can bank on the fact that he will come back where we currently stand.